Hey guys, greetings red and black fans. This is Flamengo. I'm here with Atinho asleep. All good. Flamengo won 3-0. He went to sleep. He slept in daddy's arms. Just bringing you our full coverage. Yeah, I'll sum it up. I'll skip the questions for Jardim to make it easier. And I'll also bring you the mixed zone and Jorge Jesus at Maracanã. He said it's out of the question, okay? The idea of coming back to Flamengo, he ruled out returning to Flamengo, all right? He's a friend of Boto and Jardim. He completely ruled out returning to Flamengo. He said it quickly, right? But he ruled it out. Yeah, and we're also bringing you confirmation from Flamengo about the mid-season training camp in Portugal. We'll bring you the full schedule first thing tomorrow morning. We'll provide all the details and post them on our social media. So, Leo Ortiz had a muscle injury, confirmed by MRI exams. Flamengo just released this statement, right? The information was first reported by Angelo Furtado. Now Flamengo confirms it, okay? It's a mild injury. It's not a serious injury. A small injury in the right thigh, right? Back of the right thigh. So, he has already started treatment. And there's time to recover during the World Cup, right? Maybe even, from what we know about minor injuries, he might even be available. Including for the friendlies in Portugal, for this mid-season training camp that Flamengo just confirmed. That was also exclusive information here from Paparazzo Rubro Negro's pages. But, man, João Vitor did really well, right? Very good player. Felipe praised him a lot. And he was also praised by Leonardo Jardim. You'll follow our complete coverage here. And look, it hit, huh? It hit. Several of our tips today for the Champions League and also for the Flamengo game. Our tip for Flamengo winning the game and a goal in the first half hit. That one was perfect. Yeah, the Flamengo to win pick also hit thanks to Pedro's goal, which I had suggested to you, so I'm going to invite you. I'm going to leave the QR code here for you to access our tips channel now. Go ahead and access the tips channel because, man, the picks are amazing. Check it out, man, it's blowing up. This channel just started, only 3 or 4 days old. And you can access it and you'll do really well. Also, let me remind you that you can lose weight in a healthy way with Mais Cabello. The Mais Slim program from Mais Cabello is in the pinned comment and in the description. And also Haroldo's Caravan, which can take you to the World Cup. There's still time for the World Cup. The Champions League is already over. World Cup and the rest of the Brasileirão and Libertadores. There are games in Minas. You can travel to all of these with Haroldo's Caravan. The most praised in the market.
And here he comes, the greatest coach in Flamengo's history. The man who has more titles than defeats, Jorge Jesus, accompanied by Alfredo Almeida, Flamengo's Youth Academy Director. Hey, mister, how are you? What's it like to be back at Maracanã, mister?
It's always important to return to Flamengo's home. I'm happy. The desire to coach Flamengo again, that's already a big question. So, Jorge Jesus.
Mr. Jorge Jesus arriving at Maracanã, the greatest coach in Flamengo's history.
Hey, mister, we need you, mister.
Hey, step back there. No.
I miss the fans, I really do. Go back to Benfica?
Return to Ilan Flamengo someday.
Thank you.
Jardim, how are you? Here in the middle. Good evening, Gabriel Orfon from Paparazzo Rubro Negro. I'll step away from the game for a bit and ask about your friend Jorge Jesus, who was at Maracanã today. I wanted you to tell us a bit about what happened behind the scenes, if you went to Ninho do Urubu, if you met before the game. A bit about the behind the scenes of Jesus' arrival in Brazil. Thank you and have a good vacation in advance.
Okay, thank you. Not yet, not yet. I'm going to use the game bonus to see if tomorrow we'll go out for dinner or lunch. It's because until today I've always been working, and we've already talked about this. When you work, sometimes there's not much time. Today was a day in pre-match camp. Yesterday we had training in the afternoon. I was always going full speed. We had to analyze the opponent. All these factors, there was little time, but we had that possibility. Of course, we wanted to be together. Because one thing is football, another is our relationship outside of football. And you know how it is. Jesus in 2020, when he left, called me to come here. And by doing that, he already believed in my work at the time, that I was the right solution for Flamengo. It didn't end up happening. It only happened in 2026. Here, before scoring 8.
Well, good evening.
Well, today Flamengo was missing a lot of players, right? Many absences and even mainly the creative players. There weren't that many to help create, so maybe that's why the fullbacks were used so much in the match. I wanted to know how you saw yourself in this game, right? In terms of offensive playmaking and how well your partnership with Luis Araujo worked on the right side.
No, yeah, we know we had a lot of absences, but like I said, the strength of the group has always helped us since the beginning of the championship. It's been this way since the start of the year, right? The coach keeps changing the lineup, but everyone who comes in gets the job done. I don't think it was because we lacked creative players. Yeah, it was actually a strategy for today's game. Their team closed in the middle a lot and left the sides open. And we were able to take advantage of those situations really well in the game. So I believe that, and I think we were really successful in that regard.
Well, with the World Cup break coming up, I wanted you to assess this first stretch of your season with Flamengo. And what are your goals for the rest of the year?
No, my goal is to keep doing what I've been doing with humility and hard work. Yeah, I always trust myself, like I've always said, game after game, I've been getting the coach's trust and all my teammates' trust, and I've been delivering on the field. Many times, like I said last year, and at some points during the season, I had ups and downs, but I believe that from the start of this year until now, it's been very different. I've been very consistent. I've been helping Flamengo. That's it. I want to keep going and working.
Shall we start? Vitão, let's talk a little about your last 2 matches as a starter for Flamengo. And with Flamengo keeping a clean sheet, I wanted to know how you evaluate your performance. And could you also talk a little about getting started alongside João Vitor today, who came into the game when Leo Ortiz went out?
Very important, right? It was a game we needed to win. And happy with the performance, right? With the win. Yeah, especially without conceding any goals. Yeah, the team worked really well. We stayed focused. We knew what had to be done. We knew the strengths and weaknesses of Curitiba's team. And happy with the game and the win. And regarding João Vitor, he's a kid who was already integrated into the professional squad when I arrived. He has a lot of quality and potential, right? We noted several young players on the bench today and told them to stay alert since we'd likely need them. And yeah, well, we needed him. He was ready and managed to help us a lot. Hi at Palmeiras? Of course, what I said is that we're coming off a loss in the Copa do Brasil. Exactly at Palmeiras. So today was the day for a win, no matter how, right? I need to respond to our fans and to ourselves. That's it. The championship isn't decided by one win. There were a lot of mistakes, a lot in this game, but we have to keep going. So,
And
also,
well, I think regarding the game, it was a match completely dominated by Flamengo. Even 11 against 11, Coritiba was already having great difficulties. Even in transition, which is something they use, we managed to neutralize it with the defensive line a little deeper when they put us up front. and especially the long ball specialist, Josue, who is responsible for most of their long passes. We almost did a zonal marking when he got the ball. And we played our game, our possession game with movement. We put Lino there as an attacking midfielder, almost like a second striker. It's a position he's not used to, but he had the characteristics to do it. Here's what happened. Thanks to Lino for scoring twice. He said if things went badly, people would think Jardim had gotten too clever, but it turned out well. It was a positive message and it was a good choice. Regarding the summary, we've already talked about this a few times. We managed to check the Carioca, then in the Libertadores, we managed to have a good campaign, right? A campaign that is actually the best campaign we've had in a while already. In terms of the championship, we definitely wanted to have more points, and that was the goal. We lost 4 points. Not 4, 5 points, right in the first 3 rounds of the Brazilian Championship. Now, in the last game against Palmeiras, we lost 3 important points again, but I think in general terms, we have 2 games left to finish the first half of the season, I think. Mirassol and Chapecoense. If we manage to get 6 points, we'll reach the level of a good first half of the season, on par with the best first halves. The first round is the first half of the season here in Brazil, which Flamengo has shown in recent years. No, as a coach, and I've always had that track record in my career, which is to pay attention to the young players from the youth academy. And here at Flamengo, because of these games every 3 days, we couldn't give them much attention in matches, but we did pay attention in terms of analyzing what they did in the under-20 team. João was a player who played a lot for the under-20 team. He was a player who last year also trained here for some time with the main team. And today I had 2 options. Either I move someone back, brought in your guy, and moved the midfielder back to center back, or I believed in you and put the kid in to do it. That's what I said. I don't like to change positions. Either he's here and I have to believe in him. That's what I said. João, you know the rules. You have to play your football. And I think the kid played a good game. It's no coincidence that he's one of the best young center backs in Brazilian football, and I'm happy for him. And I really hope this is the first step for him to play more often and play well in the future, because that's always my main guidance. It's not just about playing, but playing more and playing well.
Mr. Roque.
Flas column, here on your right, up here. To the right is this way. Well, regarding the transfer window, an important thing is to know what budget we have to invest, right? Because sometimes we have needs, and we'll find out if the budget is enough to bring in top-tier players, second-tier players, young players, and what we're going to focus on. After having that guideline, the idea is always to strengthen the team with higher quality players. Okay? We're not going to make changes just for the sake of it. We have to bring in players who can add something that these ones couldn't. I think that at this moment, the attacking midfield role is basically down to Arrascaeta, and sometimes Carrascal plays there. I think we could have a different player there, a different player. That's why Boat is working on that situation. Other than that, when it comes to each position, we have to either add more quality or keep the same quality and add those 2 variables. For sure, the Libertadores. The draw was against one of the teams that also has big ambitions in the Libertadores. They strengthened the team this year. It's a team that's already been built over more than 1 season. They keep their structure. We know it's going to be an intense 2-legged match. And we, Flamengo, will have the goal of being able to counter them, knowing the decider will be at Maracanã. We'll try to play a good game at Mineirão so we can play here at Maracanã afterwards. But one thing that's on my mind right now is preparing for the Chapecoense international games, those opening games, because I still don't know which players we'll have. Because with the World Cup, nobody knows when the teams will be eliminated. Nobody knows yet if the players will come back healthy, if they'll come back injured, if they'll be coming off breaks, or if they'll still have days off. This part for me right now is my focus. and then, of course, focus on that game, but everything in its own time. No, I think our choice in terms of the midfield decision today was a player who could pair well with Pedro. The objective, as you saw, Pedro floated many times and Leno moved between the lines. Araujo floated and Royal came in on the right side of midfield. And we had a style of play there that we wanted to create, because we knew that many times Curitiba's defensive midfielders pressed our two holding midfielders and there was space between the lines. The center backs had to step out. With this movement, the center backs were always out of position, either pressing forward or getting beaten in behind. And we managed to get those good dynamics that only increased after the sending off. He is definitely a player with these characteristics. If you notice, Arasca is also a player who can make these movements that are important around the striker. And having a striker like Pedro, it's important that this midfielder is a player who creates spaces not only in front of the defensive line, but also behind the defensive line. And that's what I was able to go and work on. We worked on these movements behind the defensive line over the last 2 days. And that's what ended up happening. And it's important to fit some players together so that things work out. First of all, do you want to talk about me individually? I'll congratulate you. I'll always be the best dressed one here in the audience. Regarding my characteristics, I think age allows me to develop some maturity. It's been many years coaching players, many years in several clubs. It takes away a bit of the emotion for me. It's not the emotion of the game, because I live the emotion of the game, but it's the emotion of making decisions in the heat of the moment, right? What is very good today can be very bad tomorrow. And this maturity, these 20 or 30 years in my career, allow me to look at things maybe with more balance. And even personally, I usually tell my players, the people who work with me, I take a day to mourn when the team doesn't win. The next day, don't talk to me much, because I'm going to take that day to mourn. But that day of mourning is so that the next day I have the energy to give to those who work with me. And when I say work, I mean the players, the staff. That's my idea, because I think a positive atmosphere helps everyone's work. Of course, I am also demanding and strict with the people who work with me, but in a way that I have to be polite and in a way that makes people understand what true professionalism is. Professionalism is not about shouting, it's not about speaking loudly, no. Professionalism is doing our best every day in every moment. And that's what I expect from the players, and I expect from all the staff who work with me. Maybe it's my age that allows me to approach things in a more balanced, less emotional way. But of course I get sad when I lose. And you see, on the last day, sometimes we have to call things by their names, but I don't like to be out of control emotionally, because when we lose our emotional balance, we usually say things that we'll regret the next day. No, regarding the strategy, it's like this. The strategy was the same as 3 days ago and 6 days ago against Palmeiras. It was not to let them play, it was to be suffocating, because at home, at the Maracanã, we have to impose ourselves on our opponents. We can't give them confidence. In terms of chances, we created several, just like we did against Cusco, just like we did against Palmeiras when it was 11 against 11. Our finishing still isn't at the level I want even today. We did steal 4 or 5 balls while they played out from the back. If we had been a bit more clear-headed and precise in the final touch, we could have scored 1 or 2 more goals right from the start. It didn't end up happening, but I also believe the players are making an effort every time. Everyone is working hard to create. Everyone is working hard to win the ball back as a team. Do you remember if at the beginning when I arrived, because we have players who don't press? No, our players know how to press. Our players understand that we have to press together and as a team, not just one pressing while the others stand and wait. And that reaction for us is important and identifies a part of what I believe in football, that playing in a big team means not letting the opponent think, not letting the block drop, not letting the opponent think and decide. And I think the players, little by little, are managing to instill this idea and this behavior. It's more about behavior in general terms. It's like this when I was previously talking about the partnership between two players, where one has certain characteristics and the other has different ones, like Carolina and Poeda, for example. But as a coach, I also have to observe the players and know what their characteristics are and be able to put them in a good environment, in a good habitat, so they can develop their best characteristics, right? And what happens? Both Leone and Pelata, for different reasons, sometimes weren't in the best environment to develop their characteristics. Pelata, apart from what I've already mentioned, which was the rules and the team's collective strategy, was left out in the first period, but then he started doing what we wanted, and that's why he grew. And Leon, because he also stopped just relying on dribbles, he also got involved in other movements he likes, like attacking space and coming short to receive the ball. And that allowed him to go into his natural habitat and evolve. But one important thing I want to mention again, it's not the coach who is important in the player's performance. It's the players who have the ability to understand the ideas and perform at their best level. And that's what happened both with Pelata, Leone, and others who have experienced this. Well, if I were the one making the decisions, if I had to choose a striker for the team, or if that was our priority to choose a striker, what would I choose? I would choose a player who was a bit Pedro and a bit Bruno, a player who could both support and also make runs behind the defense. Why? So I would have three options within the team structure. And that was my solution as a coach, which is also similar to what Leon does. So it's a good situation, and this was also very good for us to realize that we had another option to play there as a second striker, an attacking midfielder, because we have to create solutions. Because on the left side, our left side is really overloaded. We have players like Bruno, we have Wallace Young, who can also play there. We have Shabola, who also likes to play there. And we have a lot of people on that side. There are fewer people on the right side. That's why I like a balanced squad, so we have solutions for different game situations, for different opponents, and for different moments. That's why if I had to choose a forward, I like to have three different forwards so we can have options. I don't want a forward like Pedro because I already have Pedro. I don't want one like Bruno because I already have Bruno, right? That's why that was my suggestion. I earlier, in response to your colleague's question, I answered that, in other words, we either bring in players we don't have with different characteristics, or we bring in players who are better than ours for each position, or we bring in players of the same level but healthier. And when I say healthier players, I don't mean they're 18 years old. I have to say they're healthier. Maybe they're not very old players, players who can compete for a while. And that's part of the planning of all the big teams, who little by little start bringing in young players. Or when I say young, sometimes a 25-year-old player is still young, right? In this squad, in our squad, the 25-year-old player is still young. Players who, in the medium term and currently and in the near future, even though the project isn't Jardim's project, because in football I depend on results, but Flamengo's project already needs to have some pieces in place, because this year the players are a certain age, last year they were younger, this year they're older, and next year they'll be even older. And there has to be someone already coming through behind them so that in the future it doesn't end up like a house of cards. Everything falls apart, you look to the youth system and there's nothing there. That's why this is an idea that needs to be passed on to the management. But it's not just a project for Jardim's team, it's a project for any team. You mentioned Cruzeiro. Last year, I brought in 5 players, all young, who started playing little by little, especially in the second half of the season. This year, many of them are already playing, they're already important players, because that's natural growth. I usually say this, a 35-year-old player next year, the tendency is for his season to be weaker. It's a tendency, 33 or 34 will be weaker. This is a tendency. I'm not saying it's always like that. There are exceptions, but it's generally a tendency. But for a 23-year-old player or a 22-year-old, the tendency is that in the following season he will be better. That's also a growth trend. But it's not about Flamengo. We're talking about football. We're here to talk about football. Well, regarding Lili, I think that it's agreed that we're not going to put him at fullback and take out a player who gives us a lot of options up front. We're not going to create more players on the wing. On the left, sometimes we want to rob Peter to pay Paul, but if he's good at that, we won't change him. He can play 2 or 3 positions up front. Regarding the other question, it was about set pieces. And I don't have the numbers here. You know, I work a lot with statistics. Sometimes people criticize me for talking about statistics. But the number of set pieces in our last game, the one with Cusco, we scored a goal from a set piece. I'm not sure, it wasn't very high before, but nowadays, for example, the offensive ones, our best set piece taker, Arrascaeta, has been out for some time now. And we really feel that on attacking set pieces, it causes us major problems, because no one in the squad matches Arrascaeta's quality on set pieces. There are some who take them well, but he takes them really well, so that's what happens offensively. Defensively, for sure, we've conceded 3 or 4 goals. I don't have the data either because I didn't prepare for the question, but for the next press conference, I can give you the data if that's what you want. If we're better or worse, I don't know. And I'm not going to make it up, but I think there's not much difference in my opinion. Just here, based on the analysis I've done. We are working defensively so that we can be competent in these kinds of situations, and sometimes due to one detail or another, we've conceded from set pieces, but for sure it's something we work on. I have no doubt about that. Every week we work on set pieces, both offensive and defensive. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all. Thank you all.